You know, did you start in commercials? Like Jack, were you helping friends, you know, with their film as a production designer? What was sort of what you consider to be your entree into Hollywood?
Jack's gonna have a really cool
Yeah,
answer
I know.
to this, but
it's gonna be like David Lynch's student film or something.
but actually, I mean, I did commercials. I did a Verizon commercial that never aired, and yeah, I did like an MTV promo.
Yeah.
And I babysat.
Oh, you would think they would air that Verizon commercial now. Is there any kind of limit on it, or?
I bet the deal is wildly different 15 years later. The information would not hold up, I'm sure.
Lila, for you?
I mean, my first job in this industry is this film.
Right.
That's very kind response. My first job in my industry, which is the theater, thank you, was that I worked in the literary department at a theater called Steppenwolf in Chicago.
Yes. Are you the one who discovered that up-and-comer Tracy Letts?
No.
Just pretend you are, that'd be great.
I'm not that old.
Justine?
I can't remember what was first, but when I was in college, I had a handful of like odd jobs. I worked at a casting agency called Trio Talent. It was a very shady operation. And I worked for a casting director also.
You also used to jump over the fence at the lot of Warner Brothers and walk around
Really?
I would.
looking for work.
Correct. I would just sort of like waltz onto the lot with a friend of mine and sort of pretended like I was supposed to be there to sort of watch and absorb, and yeah.
Did you ever get a job that way?
I did get a job that way. Yes, I did, to a commercial director.
Wow.
Her name is Drew. I won't say the last name. Yes, I did.
So everyone jumped the fence at the Warner Brothers
Yes.
lot.
Just waltz
Trespass.
on. Yes. Yes.
Alex, for you?
Well, similar to Lila, like music is a much wider world that I've been a part of for ages. But as far as film scoring, I was lucky. The first film I worked on was with Cameron Crowe, a movie called Aloha, and was kind of whisked under his wing. So I was very lucky.
Wow, fantastic. Did you get to go to Hawaii?
No.
Ah.
Just in a tiny little cubicle on some lot, not Hawaii.
Jack, for you?
My first films were with David Lynch in art school.
See?
And then my last acting job was Man in the Planet in Eraserhead. And then I designed Mulholland Drive and The Straight Story with David.
Wow.
He's a great friend.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was. I'm glad we ended with you, because that would have been hard to top.
Yeah.
Well, again, congratulations on a fantastic film. And I guess I want to start at the beginning with Jennifer. How did this script find its way to you, and what interested you, not only as an actor, but as a producer?
I found the script via my producing partner, Justine Ciarrouchi, and I just hadn't seen a melody like that in so long. It was just so sure of itself and its pace, and I was drawn to Lindsay's journey of recovery and trying to find home and trying to find purpose, and then I met Lila, and we had a 5-hour dinner, and it quickly became apparent that she was truly the only person that could make this film, and somebody who I wanted to make many films with. And it all just came together really quickly. And then, of course, COVID happened, and then it took a bit longer, 3.5 years later.
Is it true you were coming off kind of a hiatus when you agreed to do this movie, or was the hiatus COVID?
No, I had taken my own hiatus, and then COVID hit, so it extended it a bit.
I'm curious for you and Justine, because having seen the movie, it's obvious why Lila was the perfect fit for this. But, when you're meeting with directors, when you're talking to people, what was it that she sort of brought to the table at that initial meeting that made her a good match?
Lila's extremely analytical, and she has razor sharp instincts, which I saw every day on set, but especially in the editing room was really when she just blew my mind. I guess my initial thoughts at the dinner were that she's brilliant, and I think that was kind of all I needed to know at the time. She was just absolutely brilliant. And so, you know, let's get this lady, let's get her a set, let's get her a movie, let's do this. She's a tiny genius.
And no concern over, I'm going to keep saying this because I can't believe it, this is your feature film directorial debut. And that just stuns me. Because in addition to being so good, it's so confident and assured. I'm still curious, had you been looking to make the transition into, you know, film directing for a while?
First, I just want to say I feel very humbled by what's been articulated and by what a lovely and warm response from this room. So also thanks for being here. It's an incredibly beautiful morning in Los Angeles, and you started watching this movie at 10 o'clock in the morning. So, and you're still here. So thank you. In my heart, I have always wanted to make movies. I think some of the most transformative experiences of my life have been both watching live performance and watching film. I mean, whatever that says about my actual life that I'm living, I don't know. But that's not stories. I think, like a lot of freelancers, I was very much living my life one project at a time, keeping my head down and fortunately interested in and challenged by the work that I was doing. And then about a year before this script came my way, I essentially had started admitting it out loud. Yeah.
Okay, and so then was Causeway one of the first scripts that came your way?
I think I've been reading for maybe 6 months to a year, but it is the one that stopped me. Emphatically stopped me. I think I had a similar response to Jen. The original script for this film was, though it took a journey to become this film, the core DNA of what you just watched is absolutely rooted in it, as there was a kind of gentle lyricism, a real patience, a sensitivity in the way the characters were handled, and a deep investment in the transformations that were going on inside these characters that might seemingly only be legible in small incremental steps, but I felt amounted to something larger and more profound. And what was going on inside the characters resonated with me and moved me very deeply.
Justine, what was it about this script that made it such a good fit for Excellent Cadaver? And I don't know if there's any, if like your company has a motto or sort of a theme that you're looking for, or you're just looking for good scripts.
Good material.
That's a theme.
I think so much of what we were being submitted when Red, White, and Water, the original draft, came in, was very traditionally structured and sort of predictable. And this felt more abstract in a good way. It was unconventionally structured. It felt like so much. And I also think the prospect of Jen kind of returning to something intimate. We hadn't seen you move in such a stripped back mode in so long. It felt like a bold choice, I think, for our first film.
I do love that sort of sparseness. Like, it really trusts the audience. It doesn't, you know, always say the exact, I guess that's speaking text. And I feel like that actually sort of applies to the music as well. It's used like very sparingly and effectively. And I'm curious, Alex, if you can talk about sort of your initial conversations with Lila about how the music would sort of reflect the interior of these characters.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Justine that I think it's like bold to do this. I think it's pretty punk to have a movie this patient and slow and respectful of, believing that your audience can handle it. And I think Jennifer Lawrence's performance was so striking, so minimal, and like said so much. So I think we definitely wanted the music to be kind of sparse and embody that and not do a ton of acrobatics. And we tried lots of stuff, and in the end, recording pretty simple like cello arrangements and then slowing them down so they got kind of even more textural and kind of earthy and kind of in your stomach became like the sound that we found. And I was just really led by Lila, like has amazing instincts and knows what she likes and what she doesn't, and it was an amazing compass to find the sound kind of.
It also sounds like there's very little percussion. I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
When you say the cello sound was sort of slowed down, do you mean you slowed it down when you recorded it, or did you actually like slow it down? What's this called? Everyone help me.
That's called vari speed. And
Thank you.
That's my favorite thing. I vari speed everything down.
Universal language.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we did. So
Oh, so
you
now-
record it at one speed and tempo or pitch, and then it gets lower and slower, and it's like the Chipmunk or Darth Vader effect.
That's amazing. I'm going to use that. Jack, this film feels so authentic and lived in, and I was under the impression you shot on like some army base somewhere. I just found out apparently you built that, and you built it in like, you converted a landfill into an army base.
We did build an army base in New Orleans on a landfill, but I think as we are all discovering, Jennifer relaying the experience as Lindsay in the doctor's office was much more powerful than anything we shot. You know, it was just, and it was coming from the character. I mean, these films are difficult to get made, you know, but they're character driven and my favorite kind of film to watch and to work on.
So what did end up being your biggest challenge on this movie from a production standpoint?
Well, I consciously worked not to make New Orleans a tourist attraction, you know, a tourist destination, so that it would appeal to everyone, you know, in the world. That this, you know, New Orleans exists on many levels, and this was more of a local level for people who live there day to day, and not to take away from the performances.
That's, I think, it's so, when you're working below the line, you want to accentuate the performances and not overtake them, and that's why I use the expression lived in. It just, everything just feels so authentic. I was so impressed.
Yeah, and then when I heard Alex score, it just blew my mind, because first time I realized it was when Lindsay was walking home, and I go, how am I inside her head, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I heard that slow cello that just magical.
Didn't you rip the vinyl off the house? That's Lindsay's house
We did.
now,
Yeah.
and that amazing wood that you
We
see from the outside.
found
is
the
amazing.
location, and it was vinyl clad, and the fellow that lived there said, "Oh, you can take that off." We took it off, and the house was aged perfectly. And
Wow.
and
That's
it,
amazing.
It created a place for Lindsay that it had a history, and I think it was good for the cinematographer, because we had lights on all, you know, windows on all sides, and I wanted the house to have a sense of history. I just, you're building trying to create a world for this character that will help her and not distract from what she's, you know, prepping.
Has he left that house with the walls exposed, or did he put more vinyl up? Oh, he did. Okay, good.
No, we left it.
So obviously this is a film that, with such authenticity, you want to get everything right. I'm curious, once you agreed to take on the role, what sort of research did you put into this character? Where did you even begin?
We interviewed many vets that had suffered from TBIs, and their stories were so helpful. Their experiences gave us so much information, and for me, who was looking for, you know, performance insights, I left with, well, it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like one thing. So we also had a lot of physical therapists help me kind of learn how to move my body that had worked that were actually in the movie with me.
Oh, really? Playing physical therapists?
Yes.
Or, oh, no way. I would love to know which ones, because everyone's so good. I couldn't tell. Both of them, really?
Not Jane Howdyshell, who plays Sharon, but then all of the nurses in those fragments in the PT gym are real PTs and OTs from the New Orleans VA.
That's fantastic. I'm curious, in all of your research, if there was anything that, maybe really informed the character, even if we didn't see it overtly on screen, but there was something that someone told you or something that you grabbed onto that really stuck with either of you?
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is me pulling Justine aside after a day of work and panicking because I felt like I wasn't doing anything. And Justine and me being like, should I have like an accent? Like, what should I do? And she was like, no, don't do anything. And I'm still thanking her every day.
But I think that's what's so brilliant about Jen's performance is that not that you would hide behind or an accent or a big set piece or a costume, but maybe you can. And this is so raw. It is so stripped back. It's bare.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably profoundly difficult. I'm not an actor, but I imagine that's some of the hardest work. I feel like anybody can go big. I think it's hard to go small, maybe harder.
I would just exploit. Am I kidding? Okay. I'm just exploiting your question as an opportunity to express gratitude,
Sure.
which is just to acknowledge that we consulted heavily with U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs medical professionals. So as Jen mentioned, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, neurologists. We were doing that widely while developing the script and while we prepped, while shooting, and I continue to into post. And likewise, widely with veterans and U.S. Armed Forces service members, both who had incurred TBIs, but others who were just willing to speak with such vulnerability, really courageous vulnerability about their reasons for enlisting in the first place, their experiences while deployed, and the challenges they faced coming home. And it would be very difficult, I would say, to distill a single insight, because at least for me, that work was so foundational at every level to every molecule of the film, which isn't to say that there isn't also a great deal of personalizing that was happening for me in Lindsay's life. And I am not a veteran and not a service member. But I would just say I think the movie wouldn't exist without those people.
Mm-hmm. And they must have been so grateful that this story was being told on their end as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't assume that every member of that population will necessarily see value in this film. But the responses that I have heard thus far have been very moving and very gratifying.
I want to talk about the rest of this amazing cast because in addition to Jennifer, it's just a fantastic ensemble. And obviously we specifically have to talk about Brian Tyree Henry, who's just he's so good he doesn't even have to be here. He gets applause. Lila, I understand you've known him since college? Is that correct?
Yeah, I've known Brian since I was 19. I was in undergrad when he was in grad school, exactly. Right before I discovered Tracy Letts. He was in grad school, in drama school when I was an undergrad. Yeah, so that's when I first saw him act in a studio classroom.
So were you who sort of brought him to the table when this script came about?
Lila, every casting gem was Lila. I've actually never seen somebody more instinctual and talented with casting than you. I mean, well, and that's also why your notes are so incredible.
Well, I noticed a lot of theater actors in this, and I wondered if these were people you had worked with before, like you mentioned Jane Goodishell and some other people.
Yeah, every member of this, I love Jane too. I mean, every member of the supporting cast in this film is somebody that I knew from the New York theater community. Either someone that I had worked with or done a workshop of a new play with, or just whose work I had seen in New York and admired tremendously.
Actors love hearing that theater pays off in some way. And Jennifer, your chemistry with Brian is it feels so organic, it's so fantastic. I don't know if you knew each other at all, if you got to get to know each other, or if what we're seeing unfold on screen was kind of happening in real time.
A little bit of both. I mean, it was happening in real time, but I'd say very quickly.
Yeah.
Brian and our first night hanging out, I got locked out of my house and tried to jump over an iron gate. And I split my leg open.
Oh!
I ended up getting staples. Brian immediately called an Uber. and left me. He was like, I don't like blood, I'm out. And I was like, please stay, help me. And he was like, no. We became very fast friends, and because we had Justine worded this beautifully the other day, so allow me to butcher it. We had these catastrophes, like flash floods or the pandemic, that really ended up being gifts, and Brian was one of those gifts. I mean, we knew in the moment, when I'm doing scenes with him, we knew what we had. We had just a meteorite of an actor. And when Lila got into the edit room, and she's just so brave, the amount of things that we shot that didn't end up being in the movie. I mean, the way that she just bravely pulled and pulled and pulled to get at the raw truth of the film, and it was clear that me and Brian's relationship was a huge part of that, and so we had that in mind. And then during the pandemic, Brian and I got more time together, and to kind of talk about the movie and talk about James and his experience, or what that would be, and then we could go back, and we could put our heads together and write off of that, and then go back and shoot it.
I want to go back to this fence. Well, first of all, you should have had Justine hop it. Apparently, she's very good at that.
This was a tall fence, though, buddy. It was like...
I was showing off for my new friends.
You're also more athletic than I am.
Yeah, I thought it was no problem.
Because we do have so many. Oh my God, you poor thing.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Because we do have so many actors here, and Lila, I've heard from everyone who's worked with you, and she just said it actually, that you give the best notes, and you're just so amazing with actors. I'd just love to know, and I'd love to hear from the producers too, if someone is lucky enough to get in a room with you and discuss a part or audition for a role, is there anything you would want them to know coming in? Anything that, it's such a grueling process sometimes. Is there anything that you think it would help actors to know?
May I just interrupt with something unrelated, but not completely unrelated, but Lila's notes are the way that she affected my performance was so powerful that it changed the way that I watch movies. I'll watch an actor make an amazing choice, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if a director told her to do that.
I'm very humbled. What would I say to an actor?
Yeah, anything
About,
no.
you mean about anything at all?
Yeah, coming to
Dear God, dear God. Don't make us. Well, I'm like, oh God. I think I'm gonna steal something, which was a Mike Nichols thing. And it was a Mike Nichols thing for the theater, which was the gist, which I'm not gonna quote verbatim because I'm going to ruin it in some way. Forgive me, Mike. But the idea was that you bring your day with you on stage. And to try to fight that is to be inside a lie that you can't undo. Mm-hmm. So that's not to suggest that acting doesn't involve all kinds of imaginative constructions. Of course it does. But that you're in your own body and you're living your own truth while you're empathetically imagining another's. And when you talked about the audition room, I feel that way very much about it, which is that I walk into an audition room. I think it's an unfortunate and inadequate structure we have in this industry. It's like I wish there was a different way at it. But for me, that moment is about meeting a person. I'm there to meet a person and get to know that person. That's what I'm interested in.
That's great. And Jennifer, for you, because I just heard you mutter that you don't enjoy auditions. I don't know any actor who does.
Horrible at auditions.
It could have been too bad.
I was. I mean, when I auditioned for Winter's Bone, they turned me down, and then I had to fly to their New York casting, and I just like resubmitted it, and it's just like, no, I'm not. This is Iglesias. But no, I used to think it was so horrible. And Justine and I, when we, first started muttering about this company many, many years ago, a huge part of what I wanted to do with the company was find new talent, because I was a part of this, it's just this circular, pool that like you got to be successful to make it as successful. And, you're given 4 pages and you're put in a room with a bunch of strangers and they're like, okay, act. And it's so antithetical. And anyway, I was really bad at auditioning. And I used to just think, if you just give me a chance to just be in the movie, then I can do it.
Was there anything that helped make it better for you in the audition room? Or?
Success.
Yes.
That's the secret, to go in those rooms.
Well, again, I want to remind everyone, this movie is now available for streaming on Apple TV Plus. Please spread the word. It's such a beautiful film. Thank you so much for being a great audience.